Hello everyone and welcome to the video. Many people seek to lose weight. They take up nutrition plans, gym memberships, do fasting, and lots of stuff. However, most of these find it hard to lose weight and keep it off for the long haul. In this video, we'll discuss why. In order to lose weight, one must maintain a net negative calorie balance. That is, daily calories consumed must be less than daily calories expended, also known as the total daily energy expenditure, or simply TDEE. A net negative calorie balance is also called a calorie deficit. If the daily calories consumed equals the total daily energy expended, we say that one is eating at maintenance calories. If the daily calories consumed is greater than the total daily energy expended, we call this a calorie surplus, or a net positive calorie balance. Maintaining a calorie surplus will result in weight gain. Maintaining a calorie deficit will result in weight loss. However, the body cannot lose weight indefinitely till zero, also known as death or disappearance into the abyss. Seriously, if weight loss was as easy as eat less, burn more, people like me wouldn't have a job. People would simply starve themselves, do lots of cardio, and end up losing the weight. That unfortunately isn't true, as most of you can attest to. When one restricts calories for weeks to months on end, the body sets in place mechanisms to help it conserve energy and prevent further weight loss. This is called metabolic adaptation. The gross effect of all this is the body burns less calories, resulting in a reduction in the rate of weight loss, or a plateau in one's weight loss journey, or even worse, a rebound weight gain after a period of prolonged calorie restriction. Metabolic adaptation is worse the quicker one loses weight or the more weight one loses. Typically, weight loss which averages more than 1.5 kilogram per week for several weeks will result in adaptation. It's therefore recommended that one has a period of refeeding for every 10% of weight lost from the baseline value. For example, consider a 90 kilogram person who sets out to lose 9 kilograms over a period of 6 to 12 weeks by implementing a calorie deficit. Their new weight will be 90 minus 9, giving you 81 kilograms. At this point, it would be wise for this person to go into a period of refeeding. During the refeeding period, this person will increase their calorie intake back to maintenance calories or even slightly above into a calorie surplus for the next 2 to 4 weeks before getting into another deficit for their next weight loss phase. I don't recommend staying in a calorie deficit for more than 8 weeks without implementing a period of refeeding. This cycling in and out of a calorie deficit into refeeds and back will prevent one from adapting metabolically and hence ensure that they continue to lose weight up to their goal and keep it off for the long term. Prolonged calorie restriction puts one at risk of 1. Reducing their resting metabolic rate, especially because of a reduction in skeletal muscle mass, and 2. A reduction in the thermic effect of the food they eat. It's therefore absolutely essential that while on a calorie deficit, a person should 1. Lift heavy weight at high intensity to increase their resting metabolic rate. 2. Increase their protein intake, as protein has a higher rate of thermogenesis when compared to carbohydrate or fat. Regulated cardio has a place in the case of a person who has stunted on their weight loss journey, but this should be monitored to ensure that one is not losing muscle while in the process. In summary, in order to lose weight, one must maintain a calorie deficit. Staying in a calorie deficit for long periods of time will cause the body to metabolically adapt. In so doing, the body undergoes physiological mechanisms to reduce its energy expenditure through 1. Loss of skeletal muscle, 2. Altering hormone levels favoring hunger. This ultimately will result in rebound weight gain if not dealt with. In order to prevent the rebound weight gain, one should increase their metabolism by 1. Lifting weight at high intensities, 2. Increasing protein intake, 3. Limiting cardio, and 4. Periodically eating at maintenance calories or even a slight calorie surplus. If you'd like to get started on a healthy weight loss journey where you lose fat while building muscle and feel good while doing it, sign up for our body transformation program at www.mybodytransformationprogram.com. You should expect to lose 5 to 12% of your weight every 2 to 3 months till you get to your goal. Don't miss out. Sign up today. The question which we had at the start was, why do we find it hard to lose fat? And we're really looking at the person, not somebody who's been eating lots of junk. You haven't been exercising. I mean, you've already been eating in what we define as a calorie surplus. You're eating more food than your body needs to maintain its weight. You're not exercising, so you're not burning anything. No, I'm looking at a typical person who has actually tried something. Maybe you're missing meals, you're doing lots of exercise, but the weight just doesn't shift. You're in the gym, very diligent, but you're not losing weight. Some people have come out of the fasting period and they may notice that they have lost weight maybe around their arms, but the belly is still there. You're thinking, I've been fasting, I haven't been eating. Why am I not losing weight? And the issue here is that if weight loss was as simple as calories in, calories out, anyone would be able to do it. But the thing is that our bodies have been fashioned. God designed them in a very special way that they've been fashioned to help us survive. Yes, to lose weight, you must be in a calorie deficit, as we had. But whenever you prolong that for weeks, months on end, which typically happens with most people, I will tell you, if somebody is consistently missing 1-2 meals a day and they are overweight or obese, I can tell you that you're definitely not eating enough food. So food is not bad. It's the type of food which you eat, because this food nourishes our body. It gives us energy, helps to repair damaged tissues, and that kind of thing. Things like fasting are good if incorporated occasionally and regulated. Thyroid hormone levels tend to drop when you prolong a calorie deficit. You restrict calories for long, weeks, months on end. It's a very important hormone for boosting metabolism, produced by your thyroid gland. Leptin is another hormone which is very important for energy balance. It's produced by our fat cells, which means the more weight you put on, the more leptin you produce, which signals the brain to reduce on your appetite, to induce satiety, to make you satisfied, so that you don't just keep eating until you just swell up and that kind of thing. When you deprive calories for long, leptin levels tend to drop. And when the leptin levels drop, things like hunger increase, we lose that sensation of satiety. A similar thing happens for people who are really obese. They actually have lots of leptin since they have lots of fat cells. But the problem is there's this thing called resistance. So what happens here is you find a person who's obese. This person's levels of leptin high because they have so many fat cells. So what happens is that the brain actually begins resisting. So it's no longer able to send the signals of, hold on, you're satisfied, stop eating. And that's why you find several people actually who are obese, and like you just cannot stop eating. So several other hormones come in. Cortisol, again, the hormone which helps you modulate chronic stress. Depriving yourself of calories for weeks, months on end. Some people have done it even for years. It stresses your body physiologically. So what happens is that cortisol levels rise. Cortisol causes breakdown of muscle. Remember, we talked about resting metabolic rate. If you're breaking down the tissue, which is most responsible for resting metabolic rate, then that means that you're going to be burning less calories. But the fact also that you're losing muscle and what is also predisposing you to many other metabolic diseases, that's not the scope for this talk, but that's something important to know. Cortisol also it antagonizes leptin, it antagonizes your thyroid hormone, T3, it antagonizes insulin, it opposes testosterone. Now, for both men and women, we need testosterone to maintain muscle mass. All these hormones are very important to ensure that energy balance is maintained. So if you're opposing the hormones which are helping you maintain muscle mass, testosterone, insulin in its normal levels helps to maintain muscle mass, you're going to find that actually you're going to be losing muscle and your metabolism drops further, and that's what we call metabolic adaptation. So again, we're trying to combat all these things which are going to cause us to lose muscle, cause us to drop in metabolism, cause us to be in an extended period of calorie restriction, which is going to make us metabolically adapt. Now, when our bodies adapt to help us survive, we get all these problems which we have. The worst thing you can do when you're in a calorie deficit, when you're fasting, is to begin going for long walks, running on the treadmill, swimming. If you're somebody who is juicing, I don't recommend juicing again because it puts you in a severe calorie deficit. And if you're going to do that program most people do it of quite heavy, 100 kilograms, 90 kilograms, 110 kilograms, meaning you need to lose about 30, 40, even sometimes up to 50 kilos. That's going to take a long amount of time. Well, with things like juicing, you actually lose the initial weight quite quickly for most people. And the reason is you lose muscle. In order to ensure that we boost metabolism, should actually be trying to lift weight. Because lifting weight is going to stimulate the muscle to say, hold on, when food comes in the evening, let's see how to apportion the right amount of it to build some little muscle or negate some of the downsides which have come with the fast. The fast is good for the spiritual reasons and all that, but for your muscle, it's not all that good for that extended amount of time. We should be doing resistance training, lifting weight at high intensity. Now, I want to clarify something there. I know many of us think of high intensity as you're sweating a lot. No. Intensity has nothing to do with sweating. When you talk about high intensity, we're actually talking about the amount of load which you're exerting. For example, this morning I was in the gym. I think I was lifting 15 kilos. Now, that was a very high intensity. 15 kilograms on either hand compared to lifting 5 kilograms. 15 kilograms is a high intensity. It has nothing to do with sweating. I'm going to lift those 15 kilograms and I most likely will not even sweat. But it will be really taxing. It's stretching the muscle as I pull up that dumbbell. That's high intensity. If I look at, say, bodyweight training, push-ups, if I can do push-ups on all fours, that means I can definitely do push-ups on knees because push-ups on knees are easier. That means I can even do push-ups while standing at an inclined surface. That's an even easier intensity. If I want to work out at a high intensity, those who watched the video, you saw one of our clients, Disha, lovely lady, she was doing push-ups with a weight on her back. So she was trying to increase the intensity because for her now push-ups on all fours are a piece of cake. So she wants to make sure that she's increasing on that intensity. The greater the intensity, the greater the stimulation of muscle. Doing 30 push-ups on all fours will not stimulate the muscle as much as putting a weight on your back, which is going to drop your number of push-ups down to maybe even just 8 push-ups. That's going to stimulate the muscle more. The 30 push-ups will stimulate just a little bit. It actually tends to be more of cardio. Again, and that's another mistake people make. They think that, oh, just because I'm lifting weight, just because I'm lifting a dumbbell, just because I'm lifting weights, I'm actually lifting weight the right way. No, you can actually be turning more towards cardio since it's quite easy. Your heart is beating faster, you're being breathless, you're resting less between the different sets, you're doing more of cycles, one exercise into the next, rest 15 seconds, go to the next. That's more of cardio. It's not really doing resistance training at a high intensity, which is going to help you maintain your muscle mass on the long haul. Okay, how do you measure calories taken in? You need to be able to have some kind of unit of measurement, which normally is the cup. The baking cup, which is the same as the 250-gram cup of yogurt, which is the same as the English teacup, basically. I know some people use weighing scales and what. I tend to run away from those because I feel now that makes it too complicated. I don't want to be putting everything on, all my food onto a weighing scale. If you're able to do that, more power to you. It's okay, no problem. But I normally tend to estimate using a cup. I know that if I put that into my calorie tracker, it can give me the amount of calories which is in that. So we talked about maintenance calories, the calories required to keep your weight constant. There's an easy way of determining if you're eating at maintenance calories. Begin tracking your meals, not putting them into an app, just taking note. At breakfast, I ate this. At lunch, I ate this. Do that for about a week. And try and keep the meals constant. Try and keep a constant exercise program. Don't change things too much. Keep things constant to make it easy. Do your measurements at the start of the week. See what your weight is. Say you're 70 kilograms. After 7 days, you've been tracking. This is what I've been eating. Try and make sure that you eat, say, breakfast, lunch, dinner. Don't miss meals again because now that will make it complicated for you. Have the same number of meals each day. At the end of the week, check your weight. If your weight has increased, there's a high chance that you're eating in a calorie surplus. If your weight has dropped, there's a high chance you're eating in a deficit. If it remains fairly constant, say plus or minus 1 kilogram, you may think this is maintenance calories. Try and repeat the same for the next 2 weeks or 3 weeks. If the weight will remains the same, you can estimate you're eating around maintenance. You may not know the value because to know the value of how many calories you've been eating, you need a calorie tracker. That says, Doctor, do you think stress is such a huge factor? Maybe shine a light on how bad cortisol is. Can it be measured? And have you tackled this before? Yes, stress is a really huge factor. I can tell you, I've had several people lose weight with just eating right and managing stress. Like stress is that important. It's so important. I've actually seen it even just in my life. I know if I'm going through a phase where business is really, really busy, we're trying to plan lots of things. Like these next 2 weeks, we have amazing things planned for you and it's driving me crazy. Yeah, so I'm really stressed. No, but it's good. We love helping you guys. Yeah. So I know that even just in this time, I have to be very, very cautious to make sure I'm doing things to maintain muscle mass. Because for me, it's as simple as just even one day of stress. If I don't sleep right that night, I wake up the next morning and then I do my body composition measurements, muscle and fat, which we're able to do here. If you want to come in for those, do so. I've not eaten any cakes. I've not eaten any random foods. No, I've eaten my healthy food, but I'm stressed. That is enough to increase my fat and drop my muscle. Yeah, so stress is that important. It's a challenge sometimes. A client comes in and they are trying to lose weight and their figures are not shifting. But this person is in the gym 5 days a week, even if it's 3 days a week. But when you check on their sleep, you say, no, doctor, I haven't been sleeping well. But I have to come to the gym. And you try to tell them, by the way, we need to understand what's the goal. Is the goal to do exercise or to lose weight? Many a times we try to advise clients, no, tomorrow, please don't come into the gym. If you have an extended night of work, say you're working again overnight, or maybe you have kids and this baby was just crying the whole night and you didn't sleep. I tell people many times, no, the next morning, just sleep in more. Have a good breakfast, protein filled, again, because you're trying to counteract the negative effects of the stress. Cortisol, which causes breakdown of protein, especially in muscle. If you really insist on coming to the gym, I don't want you lifting heavy on that day. If you're going to lift, just lift light. Maybe you can do some recovery, cardio, and that kind of thing. Now, that's where the place of cardio comes in. Yes, it's so important, by the way. Super important. I can't stress it even more. Can it be measured? Yes, but you're going to need to take like a urine sample 24 hours. Are you really willing to do that? You do not need to do that. If you're telling me that you're not sleeping, for most nights, you're not sleeping for at least 7 hours, like you get to the bed and you try to sleep and you just can't sleep. And then you fall asleep around midnight. If you tell me you wake up around 2 or 3 a.m., for me, that's enough to know that your cortisol levels are quite high. Because what happens is, cortisol it arouses us. You understand? It arouses us. So how hormones, many of the hormones have what we call circadian rhythms. So they wax and wane, they rise, they fall. So cortisol, for example, about 4 a.m. it's at its real lowest levels. So it should begin rising at about 4 a.m., slowly rising. By about 6, it should reach a considerable amount, and that's why ideally you should be able to wake up around that time. And then it reaches its peak about 11 a.m., 11, 12, noon, about that. And then from then, it now starts dropping. Again, it's preparing you such that by about 6 p.m., 7 p.m., it's about to get to its baseline. And then about 8, 9, it's really at its low, so that you sleep. But what happens is that when we keep getting stressed, we are stressing ourselves. There's work stress, social stress, physiological stress, like this, you're not eating enough. You're doing aggressive fasting, juicing, such kinds of things. You're stressing your body. You're taking lots of alcohol. You're smoking. You are working out like super heavy. You're not recovering. Well, the working out heavy is very important, but you need to recover. If you combine all those things, your cortisol levels rise higher than they should be.